Hello, everyone. I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I have a little bit of a cold right now, but um, I'm going to create a quick little video here to hopefully be helpful with your Desmos project. And hopefully this will also be something you can go back to if you get stuck somewhere in the future. So first things first, you'll notice here I'm at your Desmos graphing calculator. I have nothing on my screen yet, so I'm going to show you how to put your picture into your Desmos, and then also make some adjustments to it so that you can still see it, but it makes it also easier to see the functions you're going to enter. So the first thing we're going to do here is go over to this plus button, add an image. You'll need your image saved on your computer. I chose this Picasso painting. I found it very interesting. And then you'll notice over here that it's going to be centered at 0, 0. And we have the width, the height, and the opacity. So those are kind of the things we can play around with a little bit. I'm going to keep mine right at the origin, but I want to make it a little bit bigger so that it's a little bit easier for me to see the different values. I kind of actually want it to be up to the 10, so like 10, plus 10 and minus 10 there. And then the opacity here is actually a percent, but as it's in its decimal form. So that right now it's 100% opacity, which means it's as dark as it can get. But I want to be able to see through this a little bit more. So I'm actually going to put it at 50% by changing opacity to 0.5. That way I can still see all the lines and everything that I want to be working with, but I can also see my functions really clearly. Once you have this set, from here, now it's time to start to choose where you're going to start with your function. When I do this, I'm trying to look for kind of big functions within this image that I can see. So I'm looking here at this the woman's face, and I'm noticing the bottom of her face here kind of looks like a quadratic. It would be really good if you're not really comfortable and confident with the different types of functions yet, if you had your parent functions notes with you as you were starting this project. So I'm going to start here with a quadratic. So in the next line, I'm just going to type the parent function of the quadratic, which is x squared. I'm going to put parentheses around just the x because I know I'm going to need to move this around. Now I want to just move this vertex. I want to pick the point where I want to move the vertex. As I'm looking, it looks like it's the bottom U shape here is right about here. It looks like that's at -3, +4. So if you think about what you learned about transformations, to move it left 3, I'm going to add 3 on the inside, and to move it up 4, I'm going to add 4 on the outside. So now I have my function where I want it, but it's not wide enough. So now I'm going to come here in front of my parentheses, and I'm going to play around with vertical compressions. And I know in order to shrink or vertically compress my function, I need to multiply by something between 0 and 1. So I like to start with like 0.5. Oh, that's definitely not far enough. I need to go a lot more. So maybe I try like 0.3. We're getting closer, but we're still not there yet. Maybe 0.2. And this is a place where you can just kind of play around with it. Ooh, that one is too far. 0.1 is too far. 0.2 is getting close. What about like 0.15? That's really nice there. It goes all the way through. So I'm liking the way this looks from about here to there. I'm going to kind of like stick with that for now. And I'm going to start with another function, or move on to another function. We'll go back and cut these in a little bit. I'm also noticing that the woman's necklace looks a lot like a sine function. So that's going to be my next function. So coming into box number 3, again, I'm going to start with the parent function of the sine function, which was sine of x. And I need to move this, I'm looking at the bottom here, I need to move this up and to the right. It looks like I'm moving it up maybe 1, 2.5-ish. So I'm going to do plus 2.5. We'll start there. And then I do need to also move this to the right, maybe about 1. So let me put a -1 here. That's definitely kind of close. I feel like That's pretty good for the bottom here, but I need to kind of horizontally compress. I need to move these waves and make them thinner. So in order to horizontally compress, I'm multiplying just directly to the x by something bigger than 1. So if I start with like a 2, ooh, that might be a little too much. So I can always go less than that, maybe like a 1.5. That's getting there. 1.6. So I'm just playing around until it kind of looks like what I want. That's kind of following it nicely, but I need it to be a little bit taller here. I want this point to kind of meet way up here. So let's play around on the outside now to get that vertical stretch going. So I could start with 2. Oh, that's a little too much there. 1.5. Well, that's getting closer to where I want it to be, but it's still not, you notice it moved this a little bit. So I'm actually going to go back. The sine functions and cosine functions need a little bit more playing around. So I want to actually raise that just a little bit more, maybe like a 7 or an 8. That's a little bit better. And now I don't quite need this as high anymore. So you kind of got to play around with the sine and cosine functions. Remember, it does not have to be perfect. What your function is doing. It doesn't have to perfectly match your art piece. It should just kind of give the idea of your art piece that you've chosen. I'm going to play around with this a little bit more. So I just have my general idea of what I want this to look like, and then I'm playing around with the functions until I see something I like. I'm liking this here. Now, one more function I'm noticing, I'm seeing here her neck and arm. That looks to me a lot like a cubic function. So if we do our cubic function, I'm going to start here with x to the 3rd power. Again, I put my x into a set of parentheses, so I've got an inside and an outside. I also notice that the curve is going the wrong way, so I need to reflect this. I can do a vertical or a horizontal reflection here. I'm going to do a vertical reflection by multiplying by a negative outside. And then I want to move this point here to just about here with my necklace, so at that kind of the end of the necklace. So it looks like it's to the right 2 and up 3. To the right 2 is it's subtracting 2 inside. Up 3 is adding 3 outside. And then similar to both of our other functions, this isn't quite match the curvature yet. I want this to become wider. 2 ways we can make this wider is to either horizontally stretch or vertically compress. I like to play with vertical compressions more because then it doesn't move around that middle point as much. So I'm going to start with, again, a 0.5 here, leaving it negative so it stays in this way. Or curved in this way, reflected. So 0.5 isn't enough, so I can get even smaller, maybe like a 0.3 or a 0.2. We're getting closer. 0.1, oh, that's a little too far. What about a 1.5? I really like the way that's curving up here. I could always cut it like about here and then do a different function for this part. So that's how you're going to add your functions in. To cut your functions now, we have to kind of know where we want this point to end. So I'm seeing my x value here, negative 4.25. That's where I want this one to start. And maybe over to about here. Negative 0.38224. So I'm going to use my curly brackets. And I'm going to start from negative 4.25. You'll notice that it goes away. That's okay. Less than or equal to x. So you'll notice it's come back. That's exactly where I wanted it. And then I want it to go to here. So again, less than or equal to negative 0.38224. And now that function is cut off on both sides. We can do the same thing here. I think my necklace, I want to start here at negative 2.2. And I don't think that's quite right, but oh, yep, that looks pretty good there. And I think I want it to stop right here where it hits the neck. Again, it's not going to be perfect with the picture, but it's going to give the idea of that necklace. So it looks like it's 0.8686. So again, less than or equal to 0.8686. Now I've got that cut off, and then finally my cubic function looks like I want it to start about here at negative 0.38, less than or equal to x. Now I can see it again, and I think I want it to end right about here at 2.3, and then I can do a different function for the rest of that arm. So now, if I turn off the picture for a moment, you can start to see that portion of the picture coming together. I hope this is helpful as you continue on your Desmos projects.